Eala has not struck a single ball in Washington yet. The draw has not revealed her path. Nobody knows who will stand across the net in her opening match. Nobody knows how far she will advance. But attention is already beginning to follow her toward the American capital. Philippine flags. Phones pointed toward the court. Fans hoping that an ordinary early round match might become something much larger. Washington may not become a complete home court for Eala. The tournament may not sell out because of one player. The WTA is not afraid of her. And no result is guaranteed. The real possibility is more interesting. Eala is arriving with the tennis to demand respect and a fan base capable of changing the emotional atmosphere around her matches. She does not need a wild card. Her ranking earned her a place in the field. Her results opened the door. Yet her popularity may be growing faster than her trophy collection. That is why Washington matters. It could offer the clearest American example yet of what happens when strong results, an underdog story, and national pride arrive at the same tournament. Eala may walk onto a neutral court and hear support that feels anything but neutral. That energy could lift her. It could disturb an opponent. It could also create pressure that becomes difficult to control. How will Eala respond if every winner receives the sound of a match point? How will an opponent react when a routine first-round contest begins feeling like an unofficial home match for the player across the net? And can Eala receive that support without feeling responsible for every hope inside it? Washington is not a prediction. It is a test. A test of her tennis. A test of the crowd. A test of whether the attention surrounding her can become a weapon without becoming another opponent. For most players, Washington is an important stop before the largest weeks of the American hard court season. A new city, a new draw, a new chance to collect ranking points. For Eala, the event could become the place where two parts of her rise finally meet. Her new position inside the WTA, and the emotional force of a community that has waited for a player like her. For years, people introduced Eala as a promising talent from the Philippines. She trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy. She succeeded at the junior level. She developed the movement, timing, and angles available to a left-handed player. She learned the discipline required to survive professional tennis. But potential is comfortable. Potential allows people to imagine the future without demanding too much from the present. It does not force elite players to change their preparation. Results do. Miami changed the conversation. Eala faced Iga Swiatek with almost every traditional advantage belonging to the player across the net. Swiatek had the ranking. She had the experience. She had the reputation of controlling younger opponents before they could settle into the match. Eala won the first set by 6-2. Then the match became harder. Swiatek pushed back. The second set tightened. The possibility of a major upset became real enough for both players to feel it. Eala did not disappear. She won the second set by 7-5. That victory turned curiosity into belief. But tennis is filled with one great afternoon that never becomes permanent change. Maybe the favorite was below her best. Maybe the underdog played freely because almost nobody expected victory. Maybe the tour would adjust, and the moment would disappear. Wimbledon provided a stronger answer. Eala entered as the number 29 seed. She became the first player representing the Philippines to be seeded in a Grand Slam singles draw. Expectation followed her before the first point. She defeated Renata Zarazua in straight sets. Then Maya Joint pushed her into trouble. Eala lost the opening set. The easy version of the match disappeared. She responded by winning the second set. Then she controlled the third without losing a game. That comeback moved her toward another meeting with Swiatek. This time there was less surprise. Swiatek knew the danger. The tennis world remembered Miami. The opening set became a battle that lasted 84 minutes. The tiebreak reached 11 points to 9. Eala won it. Then she took control of the second set. Miami was no longer standing alone. Different event, different surface, different pressure. The same conclusion. Eala could compete with one of the strongest players in the sport. Her Wimbledon run ended against Jasmine Paolini in the fourth round. She did not leave with the trophy. She left with proof that changed how opponents, fans, and tournaments had to see her. She climbed to world number 28. She entered the top 30. She was no longer a small story hidden inside a large tournament. She had become one of the reasons people were watching, That competitive progress matters in Washington because the attention around Eala is not built only on identity. Her tennis gives the excitement credibility. She earned direct entry through ranking and results. Every opponent in the field must prepare for her seriously. This is not a promotional appearance created only to attract photographs and applause. She belongs in the draw. But belonging does not explain the full emotional reaction around her. Filipino fans are not simply following another successful athlete. They are watching someone carry the Philippine flag into a level of global tennis where representation has been rare. Every breakthrough feels shared. Every upset creates pride. Every major match offers proof that a player from the Philippines can stand on the largest courts and belong. That connection can travel. It appeared during her rise in Miami. It became louder at Wimbledon. It followed her home to Manila. Now it may appear in Washington. Filipino Americans have a reason to arrive early, a reason to bring flags, a reason to watch practice, a reason to make one court sound different from another. Some will come because Eala represents the Philippines. Some will come because she defeated Swiatek. Some will come because they discovered her during Wimbledon. Others may come because they want to see whether the next chapter begins in front of them. That is how attention can grow before the match begins. The media notices the reaction. Neutral fans become curious. People who arrived for another player begin checking the schedule. The emotional center of the event can move even when the ranking order does not. This does not mean Eala will become the biggest star in Washington. Established champions will be in the field. Players with more titles will enter with stronger records. A higher-ranked player may lift the trophy. But Eala could still create one of the most memorable atmospheres of the tournament. A first-round match can matter emotionally, even when it does not decide the title. That is the possibility Washington offers. The tennis, the ranking, the underdog history, the Filipino American community, the curiosity of casual fans. These forces may arrive at the same place for the first time during this stage of her career. That combination can become powerful. It can also become complicated. At first, a loud crowd looks like a perfect advantage. More flags, more cheers, more energy after every winner. An opponent forced to compete in an atmosphere that feels slightly hostile. That sounds like a gift. In tennis, support can change quickly into pressure. Imagine Eala walking onto a court in Washington. The announcer says her name. A section of the crowd rises. Philippine flags move above the seats. Phones point toward the baseline. The noise grows before the warm-up is finished. Eala feels it. The opponent feels it too. A crowd can help a player recover from difficult moments. One brave forehand can create an explosion. The sound can restore belief after a lost service game. It can make fatigue feel lighter. It can remind Eala that people remain with her even when the score moves against her. Home support often changes emotion before it changes tactics. The opponent receives the opposite message. A double fault does not only cost a point, it feeds the crowd. A missed forehand does not only change the score, it gives Eala more energy. The opponent may begin rushing. She may attempt a larger shot to silence the noise. She may start reacting to the audience instead of following the game plan. That could help Eala. It is not guaranteed. Some players become sharper when the crowd chooses a side. They enjoy the role of the visitor. They become more aggressive. They use the noise as fuel. Defeating Eala in front of a heavily supportive crowd could become extra motivation. The crowd can change how quickly pressure builds. It cannot decide which player will use that pressure better. That is the first challenge Washington may reveal. Will the opponent become uncomfortable? Or will the atmosphere make her more dangerous? The more important challenge belongs to Eala. A fan who travels to see her is not arriving only for entertainment. Many will arrive with hope. They want a victory. They want a memory. They want to see the player who defeated Swiatek create another moment that feels historic. That desire is natural. Eala may feel it with every cheer. When she was a less-known underdog, the standard was different. A competitive set against a top player showed progress. A difficult loss could still inspire optimism. A close match gave people evidence that she was getting closer. Now expectations are changing. Fans may study the draw and imagine future rounds before Eala wins the first one. They may discuss possible opponents. They may expect another upset. They may treat advancement as something that should happen. The tennis has not become easier. The public standard has changed. This is how support becomes weight. Eala may begin feeling that effort is not enough. She may believe that she owes the crowd a result. A normal performance may start feeling disappointing. A regular loss may feel like something larger. Tennis punishes players who chase the meaning of a match instead of the ball. A forehand stops being only a forehand. It becomes a chance to reward the crowd. A break point becomes a test of whether the story is still moving upward. The player begins thinking about the reaction after the match before the next point has been played. That is when the arm tightens. The target becomes safer. The feet become slower. The player starts protecting the story instead of solving the match. Eala must hear the support without trying to repay it with every swing. She must understand that the crowd can love the journey without receiving a perfect result every time. That may be harder than playing in silence. The next challenge comes from the tour itself. Before Miami, many opponents may have seen Eala as talented and dangerous. After Miami and Wimbledon, they have information. They have film. They have patterns to study. Where does she serve when the score becomes tight? How often does she attack the return? Which rally shape pushes her behind the baseline? What happens to her court position during long exchanges? How does she respond after losing a difficult service game? Where does the second serve usually land under pressure? The tour is no longer discovering Eala. The tour is preparing for her. Surprise becomes information. Information becomes strategy. Eala once entered major matches as the hunter. She looked across the net at famous players and tried to create the result nobody expected. Now other players can see her name as an opportunity. Defeating Eala can create attention. It can become a headline. It can give another rising player a major victory. It can allow an established player to stop the new story before it grows larger. That means opponents may bring more emotional intensity. They will not all become intimidated by the support around Eala. Some may want to silence it. The court could feel like an unofficial home environment for Eala. The opponent may enjoy becoming the visitor who ruins the celebration. This role reversal is one of the most difficult parts of a breakthrough. Eala knows how to chase. Now she must learn how to be chased. Against Swiatek, the emotional role was clear. Play freely. Take risks. Refuse to be intimidated. Against a less famous opponent, the mind can become more crowded. What happens if she loses? Will people call Wimbledon a temporary run? Will they question the ranking? Will the crowd become disappointed? Those questions do not need to become loud. They only need to change one decision. One safe ball instead of an attack. One rushed serve. One moment of hesitation. That can shift an entire match. This is why beating a superstar can feel emotionally easier than defeating a lower-ranked opponent when everyone expects victory. The superstar creates adrenaline. The expected win creates fear of judgment. One role gives the underdog freedom. The other demands emotional control. The next step for Eala is not only creating another famous upset. She has already proved that she can defeat greatness. The next step is building ordinary victories while carrying extraordinary attention. A first-round win. A difficult 3-set win. A match where the serve does not work perfectly. A day where the opponent plays excellent tennis and refuses to disappear. Those victories may never create the same global headlines as beating Swiatek. They build ranking stability. They build consistency. They build a lasting career. Washington could provide one of the first major tests of that transition. The American media environment may make the challenge even more intense. A win can become evidence that Eala is the next major WTA star. A loss can become a question about whether Wimbledon was only one great tournament. Modern sports attention moves quickly. It prefers simple conclusions. One day a player represents the future. The next day people ask what went wrong. There is little space for normal development. Eala may be world number 28, but she is still building the habits required to remain near the top. She will have difficult serving days. She will meet opponents producing the best tennis of their season. She will lose matches that some people expect her to win. Every player does. Heavy attention can make ordinary development look like crisis. That may be the deepest risk surrounding the excitement. The attention makes everything larger. Tennis requires the player to make everything smaller. One point, one target, One decision, one breath. If the outside noise becomes too loud inside her mind, support may begin standing between Eala and the ball. The crowd can help her fight. It can also make her feel that she is no longer allowed to have a normal day. That does not mean the attention is bad. It means Eala must learn how to use it. The strongest evidence that the excitement can last comes from the way performance and identity now support one another. Fans first had hope. Miami gave that hope a result they could explain in one sentence. Eala beat Swiatek. People who did not follow every WTA tournament understood the meaning. Swiatek represented the highest level. Eala defeated her in straight sets. That moment turned interest into belief. Wimbledon made the belief more durable. Eala arrived with a seed beside her name. She carried expectation. She recovered after losing the first set against Maya Joint. She defeated Swiatek again. She reached the fourth round. The first victory could be called a shock. The second began to look like evidence. Her rise to world number 28 then gave the attention competitive legitimacy. That ranking changed access. It changed preparation. It changed the way tournaments placed her inside the field. Direct entry in Washington proves that the excitement is connected to tennis reality. Her popularity is not floating above the results. The results are supporting it. The reaction in the Philippines added another layer. Eala returned home without the Wimbledon trophy. Young players still waited with tennis balls. Cameras followed her. Officials recognized the historical meaning of the run. Fans treated the achievement as proof that a new path had opened. Success always carries the history around it. For a country with many established tennis champions, a fourth-round finish may represent one strong tournament. For the Philippines, the same result can mean something far larger. It can show children that the path exists. It can turn tennis into a shared national conversation. It can give a community a reason to follow tournaments that once felt distant. That emotional reaction does not disappear at the national border. Washington gives Filipino Americans a physical location where the feeling can gather. A court, a practice area, a tournament schedule, the same flags in a new city, the same pride on a different surface. That could attract people who do not normally attend an early round tennis match. It could also attract neutral fans who want to witness the beginning of a story that remains unfinished. That unfinished quality may be the most important part of the appeal. Many athletes build a following after the career has already been defined. The trophies exist. The reputation is secure. The audience arrives to celebrate a finished identity. The fan base around Eala is growing while the answer remains uncertain. Nobody knows how high she will rise. Nobody knows whether she will win Washington. Nobody knows whether she will become a Grand Slam champion. Fans feel involved because the future is still being created. A finished star creates admiration. A developing star creates participation. Every victory becomes something the audience experiences with her. Every difficult defeat becomes part of a longer journey. Every tournament feels like another chapter instead of a separate event. That is why the excitement may survive even if Washington does not end with a trophy. The result matters. The relationship with the audience can continue beyond it. If Eala wins early matches, the atmosphere may grow louder. Each next opponent becomes more interesting. Each possible matchup adds another layer of tension. If she loses early, the story should not be treated as finished. One tournament cannot define the entire direction of a career. Washington is valuable because it may reveal how the different parts of her rise now interact. The tennis, the ranking, the preparation of opponents, the expectation of fans, the attention from American audiences, the pressure of representing more than herself. Watch what happens after Eala loses serve. Watch whether she keeps the same pace. Watch whether she continues attacking when the score tightens. Watch how she responds if the opponent silences the crowd. Watch whether the support produces freedom or responsibility. Those moments may tell us more than the final score alone. The WTA does not need to fear a crowd. It needs to recognize that Eala may be developing a different kind of influence. Her following is growing before her trophy collection has caught up. Her appeal reaches beyond regular tennis audiences. Her identity connects a global sport with a community that has rarely seen itself represented at this level. Her results are strong enough to prevent that attention from becoming empty hype. That does not guarantee a title. It does not make her unbeatable. It means her impact can begin before the first serve. She can create atmosphere during the match. She can create conversation after it. She can become one of the emotional centers of a tournament even when another player eventually lifts the trophy. Washington may offer an early look at that type of WTA star. One whose crowd crosses borders. One whose early round match can feel larger than the schedule suggests. One whose rise attracts people because the ending has not yet been written. The larger American hard court season could make the phenomenon grow. More cities. More fans. More pressure. More chances for people who missed Miami and Wimbledon to discover her. Then comes New York. A city already connected to her history as a junior champion. A stage where crowd energy can become overwhelming. But none of that should be assumed. Washington comes first. One draw. One opponent. 1 point at a time. That is the balance Eala must protect. She can appreciate the flags without trying to win for every flag. She can hear the cheers without allowing them to change every decision. She can represent the Philippines without treating one defeat as national disappointment. She can accept the attention without allowing the attention to enter her shot selection. That may become harder than defeating a famous opponent. Against a champion, the challenge is visible. Against expectation, the opponent exists inside the meaning of the match. Washington will reveal whether Eala can keep that meaning outside the lines. Will the crowd carry her through difficult moments? Will an opponent use the atmosphere as motivation? Will Eala turn the energy into fearless tennis? Or will she discover that popularity can become more difficult to control than any forehand coming across the net? Eala MANIA is not guaranteed to take over Washington, but the conditions for something memorable are already present. The results, the ranking, the fan connection, the national pride, the unfinished story. Now the court has to decide what all of that becomes. Subscribe to follow the answer through Washington and the American hard court season. The crowd may become her greatest weapon. The real challenge is making sure it never becomes the opponent she cannot see.